Hello, everybody. This is John Felt. Welcome to the NCGA Valent Ag Weather Outlook, July 23rd, 2016. Now, precipitation over the last week was quite interesting. If you look at the national perspective, you see there's a lot of areas with not much rainfall. Southeast U.S. really needs some rain, and there was some scattered rainfall, so that was an improvement over what we've seen in the last number of weeks. Still, it's not solving the drought problem, not really putting much of a dent in it, but at least there was some precipitation. But look at the Midwest. Widespread rainfall, not just significant rain, but widespread rain over Iowa, parts of Illinois, parts of Indiana, parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota, even North Dakota. And you can see the areas of over 2 inches of rain in yellow. So definitely for everybody's talking about the dome of high pressure, I think you can see where that is. It's where this very dry, no rain at all. But as I've been talking about is around the edge of the dome, that's where we can still have some energy and you can see it produce some rainfall. So when we look at the departure from normal, we see parts of Iowa green and blue, and that's indicating 1, 2 inches or maybe even 3 inches above normal for the week. Now it was scattered. Normally this time of year you do see some variability in precipitation. I know Ohio really needs additional rain. You don't see much there. Other areas need more rain as well. But from the core part of the Corn Belt, Iowa, southern Wisconsin, Illinois, definitely a beneficial week as far as rainfall, and in some cases even very heavy rainfall. And you can see that in soil moisture here. I like to see a little bit of light green shading. I like to see soils not dry out, because then if they really dry out, we risk that feedback issue, dry feedback, especially with this hot weather. But we're seeing some decent soil moisture over most areas. South Dakota, I still see that signal for dry soils. Look at the southeast U.S., parts of Alabama, especially Georgia, parts of South Carolina, very dry. Northeast U.S. dry as well. Now temperatures, as many of you know, it's been extremely hot. The dome of high pressure, the hottest area of high pressure, is off to the west, so it's affecting mainly the western Corn Belt. I mentioned that last week. Not as much the eastern Corn Belt. You can see the anomalies of temperature. South Dakota, 6 to 8 degrees above normal. But then as we get over Indiana, we can see it's only about 2 to 4 degrees above normal, but it's a very hot time of year. We're getting to climatologically the hottest day of the year. So 5 degrees above normal makes it feel very uncomfortable. So the jet stream this week, the ridge of high pressure, I've mentioned this for a month now, is really dominating what we will get for our weather. And it's going to flatten out here. You can see we have more of a west to east flow. And as long as we have this type of pattern with some flow over us, there will be some energy embedded in that flow, and that's going to give us a chance of precipitation. So this type of pattern, this time of year, is not a bad pattern for us over the core part of the Corn Belt. Now, if you're under that area of high pressure, if you're in the southern tier of the U.S., Texas all the way across to Georgia, you're not going to have that upper atmospheric energy, and the weather will be a lot quieter. So we're going to transition. We're going to start out with brutally hot temperatures over large areas dominated by that dome of high pressure. But gradually as the week goes on, that's going to flatten out. It's going to bring a cold front down. Not necessarily a whole lot of cool air, but it's going to be enough to bring temperatures down towards the end of the week. But more importantly, it's going to bring a front into the area. So that is going to be a focus of rainfall with some additional clouds that'll also keep temperatures down. And here's the setup on Monday. You can see the first front. And then by Thursday, another front here. So between these two fronts, it looks like we will have a number of days of a chance of precipitation over many parts of the Corn Belt, but especially the central and even parts of the eastern. Now, tropics can produce some heavy rain and bring it inland. I don't see anything. As a matter of fact, if you're in an area that typically gets a lot of tropical type systems, southeast U.S., the mid-Atlantic, the west Gulf Coast, it's unusually quiet. Look at the lack of clouds both in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic. And I sent out a post, I believe it was this past week, showing that temperatures are unusually warm. So that's a lot of potential energy. I think once things get going, we do have a potential of being quite active. So here's your rainfall forecast. And, really considering that my concern in midsummer is always potential for drought, this is a pretty favorable weather forecast overall. Pretty good area of the Midwest, at least some precipitation, and it could be an inch or two in many spots. Unfortunately, it looks like the far eastern Corn Belt, Ohio, is probably going to be an area that might not get as much as the central part, but this will bring some needed soil moisture over South Dakota, and then it's going to reinforce soil moisture elsewhere. Over the southern part of the U.S., you can see Louisiana some, but Texas, which has been quite dry, Alabama and Georgia look like they mainly remain dry. Okay, let's go a little bit further out into the 6 to 10 day range. And what do we see here? We see this area of high pressure. This is that dome, that heat dome, pushes off to the west, and we still see a flow of upper energy over most of the Midwest. So this is, again, a favorable pattern for a front to be stalled in the area and get at least a chance of rainfall. Also, it looks like temperatures in that 6 to 10 day range are going to be pulling back to near normal over the core sections of the Midwest. The strongest pockets of heat will be pushing off to the west. Then as we get into early August, so that sort of wraps up July, early August, right now the models are showing that ridge is going to build again. And look at this time, look at the energy here. This is that packing of the upper jet stream. It pushes way to the north, and that is likely to bring in some unusually hot weather the first part of August. So starting out hot, moderating back towards normal for a period of time late in July, and then right now, if these models are right, it could be unusually hot again as we get out into the early part of August. So here's your precipitation outlook. This week I said, look at all the green. Looks like it could be fairly busy over the Midwest this week. And then week 2, I do see pockets of green, so it looks like maybe normal precipitation, not as much as week 1, but at least some normal precipitation. But look at that southern tier of the U.S. on week 2, Texas right across into the southeast U.S., lots of yellow. Texas, in fact, which started off in spring with excessive rainfall, has had hardly a drop of rain ever since, been back-to-back weeks of no rain at all. So there is the possibility of some very heavy rain in that 6 to 10 day range. You can see where it's outlined there and keep an eye on that. But overall, it looks like a week of ample rainfall, moderating temperatures. Not the first 5 days. We're going to be unusually hot, brutally hot in areas. Then most of the region will be moderating temperatures. But let's keep an eye on that possible buildup again late first week in August. And that's why I like to keep our precipitation adequate, because we very much are always prone to those hot and dry periods. And if those kick in now, at least we know we're going to get some adequate rainfall that'll keep the soil moisture up. Have any questions? There's my email. I'd like to hear from you. See if I'm something you'd like to hear me talking more about. Always feel free to let me know, and I can modify my briefing. Hope this helps you this week. Keep cool, and talk to you again soon.